Because you only ever go where there's a disaster, don't you? You don't actually have a brand for coming in other than, you know, houses demolished and people homeless and the worst probably, you know, for you coming in, that made a huge impact.
Yes, but that's a misunderstanding of what we do. Because
But
we're
that's
there,
your brand. You don't want to change your brand.
No, but our role is about crisis, but we're there before, during and after. If you look at the work in Bangladesh, actually we're working, the Bangladesh Red Crescent is working with communities.
The NHS isn't Bangladesh.
No, but it's, indeed it's not. But that's why we've been working with the NHS for 80 years, or its predecessors, to actually help people get back on their feet again when there's a crisis, in partnership with the NHS. That's what we do. And formally, actually, the Red Cross is an auxiliary to government, in fact. We're actually formed by Royal Charter. And you can respond much better in an emergency if you're working alongside a partner already. So that's what we do.
Okay, Terry, we've got some questions on from Twitter.
Well, just wanting to know, but I think maybe you've covered it, how to access the report and the content of the new report.
Okay, you can access the report by going onto the Red Cross website, yeah? Google Red Cross, British Red Cross, and it's on the front page of the website, yeah? So download, it's free. Okay?
The in-out report, if you search on that, then it will come up.
In-out report, okay? So wake up, don't be dozy, use Google, for Christ's sake, grow up. Right, next question.
Thank you, that was helpful.
Yeah. I'm loving you all. Go on. Is that it?
No, that was
Okay,
the main
fine.
one. There was lots of
Right. So, well, I mean, we're going to close, I think, Michael. Where we can't carry on as we can, right? So you've got some cockeyed idea of doing everything differently, but you haven't spelled it out. There isn't enough money. We're going to hell in we're going to hell in a handcart.
Yeah,
Discuss.
But the key to it, and I wrote to you about this, and you didn't reply, actually, if I missed
Has anybody else written to me? No, not replied.
Normally you're very good at that.
I'm very
but
sorry.
actually, because
I think it's probably too difficult.
I got a bunch of people together, chief execs of hospital trusts, directors of adult services, and I said, well, yeah, what do we do about this?
Yeah.
And the key thing, if we do nothing else, it is about giving people the chance to express what their goals are. Just imagine if that shoulder specialist, if every professional had to deal with what the aspirations of that person are at every professional handoff. So even when that person who's the shoulder specialist, who is looking at some tiny proportion of the shoulder, understood that the reason Mrs. Smith getting her shoulder to work again is important is because she loves gardening. I think they would start to look less at the shoulder and more at the person. And then you start to build up a holistic approach to the way in which we support people. And then you design the institutional arrangements around whatever makes that possible.
I get that, but we are where we are. Right. And we've got 50 billion quid worth of debt in the NHS by 2020.
But there is no quick fix, Roy. You know that.
No, what I'm coming to, I'm saying, is there a fix? I mean, within the life of a parliament, there isn't.
No.
If we got back to the European average funding, I mean, at the moment we're behind Germany, France and Iceland. If we got back to some kind of semblance of European percentage of GDP, it still wouldn't touch the sides. I mean, are we getting to the point where there's some stuff we can do and some stuff that we're going to have to stop doing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the height of that debate about what we said in January last year, you know, literally on the weekend the story broke, and I can tell you we were not popular. But talking to
you got a phone call.
Where we're talking,
very sinister phone.
Talking to one of the most senior people in the NHS. Again, I went, you know, who just said, I won't do his accent either because that would be a giveaway. But he just said we're over-specialised. We're over-specialised, and therefore he described the story of his own parent-in-law, I can't remember which one it was, who was being passed between specialties, and therefore not able to get a holistic.
Well, you see, I don't think that matters. I mean, I think what I want to know is why is it that little old ladies living in a care home could end up in hospital with a UTI in a care home? How does that happen? And Terry and I were at NFJ, the DH, weren't we, beginning of the week, where they do a kind of 3-monthly review of the stuff they're doing in London. And they were telling us that there was one care home, I would name them if I knew who it was, but they wouldn't tell me, had 6 ambulances picking up 6 little old ladies who'd got the flu. You know, for Christ's sake. What does that cost?
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole piece of work to do in care homes.
Well, it's a system, isn't it?
Well, it's the elderly frail, and as I said when I started, you look at Australia, they kind of carved that out, and these are different services run differently. So that maybe there's some solace there. But when people say they want to change the NHS, I don't think we do. I think we just want to fund the bloody thing properly, make it a bit more efficient. That would do for me.
That would obviously help, but it wouldn't deal with the fact that you've got all these frail elderly people who are being supported by social care, and they're the same people who are ending up taking up 70% of the resources in the hospitals.
But it won't always be like that.
Some of that doesn't need to happen.
It won't always be like that, because I mean that's a generation who've been the post-war generation, who've had poor diets, poor working conditions, and a lot of their problems have been brought on with the life they lead and how they led it, innocently enough. But now you've got the baby boomers coming through who are much fitter. They haven't smoked. They're on the net, on the web. There could be a whole fitter generation of older people coming through who will complain like hell if we don't get anything wrong, if we get things wrong.
Well, but there'll still be people in the
You're
last
not
3
going to
4
be
years.
frail elderly, are you?
No, I hope not. my wife wants us to go out to Marrakesh and walk out into the sea in Morocco on a high of drugs, and then say goodbye to her. rather than burden the NHS. So,
book 3 tickets.
Exactly.
So when we start to think about how we're going to do what we're going to do, I mean, what we are doing differently is working with you, which is a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's about. But you can't just do that and then say the NHS just give the NHS a bit more money. You need to look at it much more holistically around how people will live, about the role, the responsibilities we all have to each other.
Do you think we should put taxes up?
I don't know whether we should put taxes up, but I mean, people.
Well, they're talking about tuppence on national insurance and ring fencing it.
Yeah, there's a big debate about hypothecated taxes, and some clever people say we shouldn't have a hypothecated tax. Some other clever people.
Some very dim-witted people say we shouldn't have hypothecated. All the clever ones are saying we should. Yeah.
Otherwise, the IFS were saying we should have.
Well, they know. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's something about enabling people to look after themselves, our responsibility to each other, and how we nurture that. And some of the ideas that have been around, about the challenge we never stick with ideas like big society. Like, Theresa May floated the idea of the shared society, but there is
that strong and stable?
There
was that deeper meaning?
Oh, who knows? But there is something important in those ideas. And,
there is.
And the problem is we're not actually prepared to nurture them.
It's a sense of community. That's
Yeah.
what's missing. Right, on the last nuggets, who's got something they want to say, comment, ask a question? It's up to you. Don't go home thinking, I wish I hadn't asked that. Yes, ma'am. Stand up, tell us who you are, give us your PIN number, and you're away.
My name is Sasha Wallace. I'm a project manager within the NHS, have been for the last decade, running a social enterprise around mental health. And I absolutely agree with what Michael was saying about it is about big society, and it is about enabling people to take more care of their own health. I work for a trust, a CCG that commissions the Red Cross across Westminster, Hammersmith and Fulham and Kensington and Chelsea to do hospital at home, which is a fantastic service. And I absolutely want to return to the point about market shaping at the beginning of the lecture, when that is really what we need to be concentrating on, the idea that we keep going to the big six for management consulting, and actually what we need to be doing is talking to the voluntary sector, because they are the ones with the roots and branches out into the community. They understand the landscape, they understand people on a much more visceral daily level, and they can offer so much value.
Interesting point.
At a fraction of the cost,
should we have the Red Cross consultancy?
Well, I think the Red Cross do a great example for what other charities can do. There are lots of great small charities, like you say, the comic tale of what's out there, and that's what's not being utilised enough.
Sasha, that's a really good point, because if you took all the people who are in the elderly sector, so who you've got Help the Aged, who else is there?
AGK, Independent Age,
Independent Age,
and then lots and lots of local organisations.
and you. If there were some way to kind of crowdsource that lot together, then you could have I mean, you were in 16 hospitals, did you say that?
60.
60.
60 in England and
Yeah, I
about
mean,
19 in the UK.
that's a big coverage, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's like a third of all those.
And we've taken...
But bringing those organisations together to model themselves on your offering now, that would make a huge difference. It's a good point, Sasha.
We really build on social capital in that way. What we've always discovered by sharing the pathway with the voluntary sector is that they really understand what's happening on the ground. Just like a disaster emergency, they have that route into people's lives. They understand what that really means on a day-to-day level. And in terms of reducing admissions to hospitals, managing the detox pathway, that's what everyone's focus has got to be about now. And developing community services, developing our community to be able to respond effectively to this massive challenge around A&E admission and local authority front door admissions as well. It is about connecting with the voluntary sector.
It is
we do that piecemeal.
Yeah.
We don't do it enough.
Just
and
got an eye on the time,
It's
Sasha.
very valuable.
Don't mean to be rude, but I've got an eye on the time. We're nearly finished. I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? You as I said to you before, Christ said we've got the NHS. We don't need the Red Cross sorting themselves out. You're the food parcel people in Bangladesh, but actually, you're carving out an interesting additional niche where you can see how the third sector could be doing what they're doing. Because it's within their capacity.
Yeah, and the thing about that in our report, and I think the reason it's actually also a breakthrough for us in our own thinking is that it's framed around people and patient flow. We're about people, but we recognise that what matters to the NHS is patient flow.
Yeah.
And so we kind of land it. The challenge when I became a director of commissioning, I thought, I'm going to change all this. So I invited the voluntary sector in. And of course, I then had a room full of 60 organisations thinking, what the hell am I going to do with them all? So actually, we've got to make it easier to work with us as well. And we have done joint work with AGK and RBS and others around presenting joint propositions. I think we need to do more of that in order to make it easy to transact with us and build relationships with us.
Needs perhaps a neutral platform. Look, we're right up against the buffers of time, unless anybody's got anything they want to say quickly. I think, yes, ma'am. You're from Torture UK.
It's called Freedom for Torture. We work with survivors of torture. I just very quickly wanted
If you would, because I'm out of time.
Yeah, pick up on the point of volunteers. So the majority of people in my team, which I lead, are volunteers, and we treat them the same as people who are paid from the point of view of the checks, the support, and that is really important. So I just wanted to...
No, that's absolutely true. Exactly right.
It's right, and you'll be increasingly right, I think, and thank you for that. Okay, well, have you enjoyed the evening? I don't know where the time's gone. I've overrun by 15 minutes. I've had a fantastically interesting evening talking to someone who is a fantastically interesting person. Can we say thank you very much?